Everyone hits a bump in the road. What do you do with it? Be inspired as we explore the ways people experience, navigate, and manage the ups and downs and twists and turns in this road trip called life. Welcome to another episode of Bump in the Road. The basic podcast is always free. We also have a premium subscription called Bump 2 that lets you listen in on extended behind-the-scenes conversations with our guests. Check it out at www.bumpintheroad.us. Adam Asher travels the world in a quest for adventure and purpose in his web TV series, The Edge of Adventure. His series defines him in many ways. It's about life beyond the status quo, it's humanitarian in its focus, and it takes you places you may not dare to tread. Welcome, Adam Asher. Adam, tell us your story.
Well, thank you so much, Pat. First of all, let me thank you and your listeners for their time. I have great admiration for you, Pat, and this platform that you've developed, Bump in the Road, and why you do it and who you are. I think it's all very compelling. So first of all, thanks for having me on the show, and thanks for who you are.
Well, thank you. My gosh, I'm going to, use this audio in an ad, I think.
Listen, you should do it. You should do it. Well, listen, what was the question? Who's Adam Asher? Who am I? What's my story?
Indeed.
It's how do you put that in? How do you boil that down and tell the story in a way that doesn't bore people? Because I look back over my life and I'm very thankful for the things I've been able to do. And at the same time, I don't really think of myself or my life as being particularly exceptional in any way or outstanding or unusual. But, I'm just a guy who kind of came into the world as a very sensitive soul. I look back at my childhood and I realize I was kind of a sensitive kid, and the world can be unkind to people who are sensitive. And I think that maybe that's where it all started today, all these years later, as I'm knocking on the door of 50 years old. I just think about trying to be kind to people and also to use the skills and experience that I have to, in some small way, make the world a better place.
I think that's a sentiment we should all have, particularly as we age, because we've developed so much wisdom through all the ups and downs of life. And I think it does distill down into kindness.
That's a word that can be overused. And so even as I hear myself say it, I think, okay, what does that mean? But some people use it, to mean that you're weak, I think, or they think of a kindness as equating it to being weak. And I don't. I strive to be strong, and a part of that means sometimes you have to confront things, or you have to confront people, and those are necessary in life. Kindness does not mean that you're a doormat or that you don't stand up for yourself in the process. But I do want to make a difference. I figure I've been on this planet a little while, not all that long, all things considered. And I don't know how much time I have left. And whatever time I do have left, I want to make a difference, to hopefully be kind to people and leave a, positive legacy as whatever happens in the future. But I know, like all of us, this just doesn't just go for me, but I know that I've been given a great gift, and that gift is time here. And a question that always, I don't want to say haunts me, I don't think it haunts me, but the question that I always have in the back of my mind is, will my time here have mattered? And I suppose that guides much of what I do.
Well, you're on a very unique path right now. Tell our listeners a little bit about what you're doing because I think it's truly remarkable.
Well, thank you, Pat. I am building something, and it comes out of exactly what I just said. It is a piece of who I am. It is what I feel like I have to give, and I call it the edge of adventure. The edge of adventure is a few different things, but I think the thing to mainly focus on is the fact that it is a video series where I showcase organizations and people who are doing humanitarian work, people who live lives of adventure and purpose. And again, that ties right back to me. That ties into the person that I am. I like adventure. I like culture. I love meeting new people and traveling and getting to know cultures that are completely different than mine. I find that extremely fascinating. But I'm also driven by a sense of purpose, and I want to know that my travels and my experience and whatever I might do has a purpose and matters somehow by hopefully helping other people. And so, with The Edge of Adventure as a video series, it is meant to showcase these organizations and these people who are giving of themselves to make the world a better place. They're giving of themselves to help others, often at great sacrifice. I admire those people. I admire those organizations. And I, in turn, with The Edge of Adventure, I seek to help tell their story and get their story out to as many people as possible.
You've been to some pretty wild places.
I've been to a place or two, and I love them all. The one of my least favorite questions, and thank you for not asking it, is what's your favorite place that you've ever been? I don't like that question because I I truly do find beauty in all of these places, and it can be this beautiful view of the ocean, and that's beautiful in one way, of course. And it can also be a it could be a village in a very desolate part of the continent somewhere, and the people and their fight for survival and their love for one another. I see the beauty in that. And then, of course, when you factor in these servants, these people who work for these organizations and give of their time and their resources to help others, I mean, really, what better picture of beauty is there? I don't really see that there is one, but I did with The Edge of Adventure. The initial series that I made was shot in Nicaragua in Central America. I'm very pleased and honored to say that this series got a little bit of attention and did win an award, a Telly Award, as the silver came in second. So I still have something to shoot for, can aim for first place. But the award itself, yeah, of course, we like to have our work noticed and have your peers and whatnot say that it's good work. But my goal with it in that particular series was to tell the story of what an organization is doing there. This organization is called Mission Hope, and the organization serves the people in a very remote part of that country. And to take the viewer, right? Here's the challenge. Here's what you want to do with the series. You want to take the viewer on an adventure that they get to feel a part of. And on this adventure, they learn of things that matter. They learn of and get to know people who are giving of themselves, doing these things. And so it's a mix of learning about geography and culture and language, but also getting right to the heart of the matter and saying, wow, yeah, they're making a difference, right? And that's beautiful. And then my challenge back to the viewer is, in your own way, in your own part of the world, in a way that is unique to your calling and your experience, what difference are you making? Are you brave enough to go after that and live that adventure.
You were pretty brave taking this on. Now, you have a background in radio, I believe. Is that correct?
I do. When I was a teenager, back before the internet, back before the world was this small, and it's so small now. I mean, in good ways. I mean, it's really awesome, but the world is smaller than it used to be. And I was interested in amateur radio. It's also known as ham radio. And if you know what it is, awesome. And if you don't, it's this international agreement that these all the different countries have that allow you to get a license. And when you have that license, you're able to use a radio set and an antenna that you might build, and you're able to talk to people all over the world. And again, it was before the internet. It was before you could do a podcast and from two different locations using the internet, which is a wonderful thing. But that goes back to before that time. But I was intrigued by radio, and I was intrigued by its ability to connect people, and I was intrigued a lot, really, really intrigued by the ability that radio gave me to travel to all these places and get to know the people in Ecuador and Spain and Australia, and that was what I did. Or I mean, as a teenager, probably makes me a little bit of a nerd, or a lot of a nerd. But as a teenager, I enjoyed learning about radio, both from a technological standpoint and also the art form. And then that gave way to a career in radio. And then here I am all these years later with both a career in radio behind me and some other media projects. And it has uniquely prepared me for the edge of adventure, for this thing that has been stirring in my soul for probably the better part of a decade, and the project I've been working on for really the last 4 or 5 years.
What motivated you to take the step to get the edge of adventure going?
Pat, probably a lot of things, right? I could answer that in a couple of ways. I think the root of probably the best answer is to say that it gets back to my question, right? That the question that I have, what am I doing here on this planet with my time? I've done a lot of good things in my life. I've raised a son. I have taken a lot of trips and have a lot of great friends, and all those things are wonderful. But I knew in my heart that there was something else I needed to do. And I began asking the question, which I highly recommend that everybody ask of themselves. If they want, if they feel that same longing, then I would say to them, ask yourself the same question that I ask, which is, how can I take what I know how to do and blend it with what I want to do? And that sounds pretty simple, but I think that's kind of both of those are big questions. You really do have to begin to quantify for yourself or qualify what do I know how to do? What do I know how to do that is really kind of a unique skill that I'm comfortable in and that I'm good at? And then, my gosh, what do I even want to do? And if you can get those two, what is it, the Venn diagram sort of thing? If you can kind of get those to look at the point, you say, I can see where those two intersect. What if I did that? And that's really where I came to that point. And I spent a year kind of preparing in a way. And then when I had the opportunity to film for that series, I was ready because I had prepared and had thought some things out. Of course, all these big projects that we do in life, they're all living and breathing projects, meaning they change, they grow, they may not be the exact same thing they were when they started. Hopefully they're not. Hopefully they've matured.
Change, I think, is really important, and it's something that most of us are uncomfortable with. But we only grow when we're in that phase of dis-ease, if you will. And I think the more we can stay in that phase, the more growth we can realize. But it is not easy.
It's not. Change can be uncomfortable, whether it is caused by something good or if it's caused by something we would classify as being bad. The change, we fear it often, I think, and sometimes we don't even realize it, right? We're comfortable. And then you think, well, I could have more, I could do more, I could be more, but I'm going to have to change this or this or this. And then that's kind of where we let it stop, is because it's a lot of work. Or maybe I'm just a little bit scared of what that might mean for me. And these are the changes that we might want or think of as positive change. But then, true to the theme of your platform in this podcast, there are things in life that come along that we have no control over, that force us to change. And we might say some of that is bad, but some of it in the end is actually good if we cooperate with the process.
Yeah, I agree with you. Things that appear to be just terrible actually, in the long run, can turn out to be some of the most beneficial experiences that you'll have. And I think I've certainly been through lots of bumps in the road, and I've come to see change as adventure.
And I think that's why you've done so well. And I think that's one of the reasons, Pat, why there's that synergy between you and me, and why we noticed each other's platforms and the messages that we're conveying. I named the series and my brand, this concept that I've built out, The Edge of Adventure. And I did it for different reasons, right? It is meant to cast this image of being in the developing world somewhere on an adventure, facing unknown twists and turns, because there is that side to the platform. But it's also about the changes that we all face individually. And whatever the adventure is, the change that's caused an adventure, whether we think of it as a positive change or as a negative change, whatever it is, we come to a point where we either choose to launch out into that adventure, or we're forced out into that adventure. And in either case, it requires bravery. I call that the edge of adventure, meaning that, we come to that point where what we've done in life and what is our status quo is no longer satisfactory. We can't stay there anymore. Again, could be something that we chose, or it could be something that we're now forced beyond. But that point at which everything changes, that is the edge of adventure. And your adventure is really on the other side of that edge, of that point in time where you are no longer the same. And you embrace it, and you go after that adventure in bravery. And that's why I use the slogan, Beyond Status Quo. Because as we think about where we're going to go from here, where do we want to go from here, wherever we are, where do we want to go from here? We want to go beyond status quo. I do. I'm after something more, and I think a lot of people are too.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found something in today's podcast that inspires you along your own life's path, because sometimes a bump in the road is actually a portal into a more conscious and meaningful life. You can subscribe to our free podcast at www.bumpintheroad.us or become a premium member to hear the full conversation. Just go to www.bumpintheroad.us for more information and to sign up.